evening. How are you? We finally entered the month of October, which is the month of Halloween. I don't care what anyone says, Halloween goes for about a month. And I thought, what better character to begin with than the classic jack-o'-lantern? I take a foundation applicator brush and just the color orange, and I try to line out what my pumpkin would be. By doing this, the parts that I set down first create the ridges in the pumpkin, and I can take it from there with my lighting and shadow. I take a fine detail brush and the color rose brown to create circles around my eyes. These will become the inevitable eye hole cutouts. I start the line from underneath my eyebrow and take it to my cheekbone line, which creates pretty big eyes. I then fill in my face with orange body paint, trying to stay within the lines. Granted, my whole face will be covered in orange, but this way it helps me map out my pumpkin. I decided it would be kind of cute to create a leaf fringe, so I take my lime green body paint, my applicator brush, and I create a leaf on my head where a fringe would be. Using that same brush and my dark green body paint, I then create what would become a shadow on the bottom of the leaf, and in that middle crease dividing the two sides of the leaf. It looks pretty stark now, but we go in and we blend it shortly. I pull out that green from the center to kind of give it a soft blend, but I decide later to go in with a different medium and we're good. Here I've mixed that deep green with lime, and I've created a middle ground between the deep green and the lime, and I haven't exactly applied it neatly because we're going to blend this out later. This is just a base. At this point I decided to cover the whole leaf in that medium green, but I go back in later and create more lights and shadows, and this makes it easier to blend in all the colors. Taking my rose brown again and a slightly bigger detail brush, I create those ridges and those lines that I tried to paint in before, so I can actually, look like a pumpkin. I then take a fluffy eyeshadow brush and I use a medium warm red cream paint and take it on either side of each line of my face, blending between that crease and the orange body paint. I went a little overkill, so I went in with yellow cream paint to use as a highlight on the high points of my face where there's mostly orange, and to bring back that red a little bit to separate the different ridges. I then go in with white to further bring out those highlight points. Next, I take an angled brush and go back into that rose brown color to accent the depths of that pumpkin a little more. They keep blending out because it's water-based paints, but I keep going back in a couple more times. I also create a light outline of my pumpkin. Taking a darker cream paint here and that angled brush, I try to blend out from that crease a little bit out into that red to create depth and dimension, but not to pull it out too far. And I do that with every indent. Using a clean angled brush now, I take white cream paint and I create the highlights on the leaf. I blend it out a little with my finger, and I do this to both halves of the leaf where they both have a high point. I then take the green color. This is all in the Gemini FX green palette. I take the green color in there and I blot it down with my finger, creating different lights, shadows, dimensions on that leaf. This color is great because it does contain yellow in it, and it's more of a deeper lime, which brings some color back into the leaf, and it's not such a cool green. Taking my fluffy brush from before, I'm going in and setting that red shadow, just so it doesn't go anywhere. And then I can blend it with shadows a little bit later, and it'll create a nice seamless look. And with a clean fluffy brush now, I take a light yellow and I just powder those high points, so that I set those two. Using rose brown again and that detailed brush from before, I create the indents to make the eye look a little more 3D and cut out in the eye sockets.
I
also created this little mouth socket which turned out to be both happy and have vampire fangs. And I used the rose brown to fill that in. For the eyes, I go in with a fluffy brush and I apply yellow body paint on top of my eyelid and a little bit underneath, creating the illusion of a circle on that eye. I then outline it with orange body painting, and those two will blend together a little bit later. And the third layer is using a warm brown, as close to the rose brown I was using with my water-based body paints, but this is a cream base and I use creams here because they're just easier to blend. And then I go in with black. This black is going to deepen the rose brown, and I go in with rose brown again later to give that more color as well, but the darker we can get the outsides, the lighter the inside will look. And it'll look like the lights are coming from inside the jack-o'-lantern, which is where they're supposed to come from. I've mixed my rose brown water-based body paint now with a little bit of orange, and I color in that indent, that 3D slice from inside that pumpkin. It is darker than the outside of the pumpkin because, it's on the inside of the pumpkin, but you can see it because the light is coming from both the outside and the in. I then set each cream color with an eyeshadow color that matches it, so yellow on the yellow, orange on the orange, and a deep brown on the brown. Blotting it upon application and then swiping it to blend it all together. With my lovely and trusty Gemini palette, I use the color Leo to start shading the underside of that leaf. Then I use Fire OG for what is the body of the leaf, but also creates a lot of shadow in that midsection. And I go in with goals in that very blurry clip to highlight the high points, which unfortunately are only shown in the light. When I tilt my head up it looks like darkness, but it's definitely goals. And I didn't show it here, but I used Bonnie just to create more of a contrast between the leaf and the pumpkin. But the application is on the leaf, and I do blend it upward in with Leo. Then I take my deep green body paint and a detailed brush and I create whatever this is. It's like, when I look at pumpkins, they have pumpkin hairs. I don't know. I go in with my lime green and then my deep green again, just to give it what looks like hair, but is definitely part of the pumpkin. Okay, so my jack-o'-lantern face is going to be sitting on its own pumpkin patch. So around my collarbone and on my shoulders, I am painting 2 leaves now. I'm starting with lime green using a foundation applicator brush, and I'm just creating shapes and filling them in. Pretty self-explanatory. I take one of the leaves a little down my shoulders and they're off center just to give it that sort of asymmetrical look. I then use a mix of that lime green with a deep green. Like I did with the leaf on my forehead, I do it again here on my body, adding darkness to that center crease of the leaf and also on the underside, and blending it in with the lime. Down my neck and chest, and arms I guess, I use that deep green to create the area around these leaves where the pumpkin would sit. These lines go down a sort of crisscross motion down my body to make it look like I am sort of wearing a shirt. This is a character look, so I assumed it would have some sort of t-shirt armor looking thing as opposed to just a head on leaves. I essentially fill in my whole body with that green, even though I'm trying to make it look like it's zigzagging down my body. It is just basically filling in the body with green body paint. The area of my neck that separates my pumpkin from the rest of me, I'm painting black. Now, this next part, I could not find the clip anywhere. I think my camera turned off, but I've tried using black shadow and black cream paints to create that crossover pumpkin patch outfit. And then I went in with white to give it little highlights. Just like regular vegetation leaves, I've noticed they're big, they're sort of dry and kind of leathery, but they do catch the light where they need to. With my dense fluffy brush, I've taken a blend of Leo from the Gemini palette and also Bonnie to create depth and dimension into the lower parts of those leaves. And then on a fluffy brush, I have taken Bonnie, which is that black, and I've created a shadow underneath the leaf because these leaves would be kind of sitting on top of the pumpkin patch and would therefore need a shadow. So I just applied that there underneath that leaf and I blend it out. I take Bonnie again with a fluffy brush and I set that cutout of the mouthpiece. I also use black eyeshadow to outline the outer parts of that eye socket shadow, and then following it with a brown and then an orange and then a yellow just to set all of those cream paints that I've blended into the eye sockets, and making them darker as I go. I get a little sidetracked here because I thought something was missing, and it was. So I take my fine detail brush and at first I take lime green, but then very quickly change to my deep green and I create these. What are these called? Leaf veins? Anyway, it makes the leaf look a little more realistic, a little less two-dimensional, and a little more detailed. Definitely more detailed. I am looking at a reference image here for the leaves, so if you have a reference image, it'll probably be easier. From what I got from the reference image, these little veins are more or less unpredictable. They do seem to stem from the center and vein outwards, but none of them really had a consecutive pattern, so you can't really go wrong here. It's just where you feel like the leaf needs a little more veins. And then I continue to do so with the leaf on my forehead. And this is my final look. I'm so excited to finally get into character work and for it to be during Halloween. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy the upcoming videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.